Hey everybody, this is Rydo and we're back to another live stream of Hearthstone. Today is Friday, September 6th. Took me a while to get streaming. It seems like YouTube decided to change the live chat URL, so had to do a little bit of setup on the fly there, so apologies if you're watching live. We are on the European account, and you can see we don't really have a lot to do here. One daily quest of doing damage, and we already had done the daily quest that required us to play the Tavern Brawl, so it really is just now a matter of, since we've got these Tavern Brawls going anyways, we should just play all the way through it. So we're entering after the first victory, playing as Elsa Truthseeker, and we're gonna take double your starting health, which is by far the best card that you can really get as far as an enhancement. And then I don't know if there's been any real strategy that we've tried to implement yet, because we just played one level. So I mean, I could choose one quest, or I could get something else. I think all bark is probably the best choice there.
I need help. It is time to round up the League of Explorers.
So what we're gonna want to keep an eye out for here is specifically, does this quest count towards the damage I do to the enemy, and work towards doing that daily quest? If not, then if I lose in this process and don't beat it all the way through, that's fine. I don't really have a need to do that. If anything, there's a good argument here, as we still do have a decent amount of leftover news, not a lot, but a decent amount. There'd be an argument to play the solo adventure from the previous expansion on the European account and see if we can get at least a couple of those, get one, not a couple, but probably one of those done. I didn't do anything other than paperwork over Wednesday, so I'm breaking up Control into episodes.
Class is in session.
It occurred to me, I said it was going to probably air in December. Truth is, it'll probably air in November. Yeah, I'm thinking I'll break up all of Control, and just as a space-saving measure, because Control is big enough for it to matter, I will remove, upload and then remove all of the videos of Control. I did do a little bit of research on what the SCP reference is that was often being thrown around Control. Apparently SCP is a collaborative wiki website of narrative fiction. SCP standing for Secure, Control, Protect, or something else. It has like two things it stands for, which is ridiculous. So I looked at the website, and yeah, I kind of get what it is. It didn't look super interesting though, because it's a bunch of reading, and it does totally feel like the makers of Control are big fans of SCP, or just decided to rip it off. What was really interesting is, if at least in one scene that I saw when I went back and looked at it, the phrase AWE, Altered Worlds Events, the letters AWE, appear in Remedy's previous game of
Got one.
What was that? Their previous game? It was Quantum. I forget what their previous game was. I want to say Quantic Dream, but that's a video game company, not the name of a game. I think, unless it's something very similar. It has quantum in the name for sure. So yeah, there definitely is a case here where the entirety of the Remedy series of games seems to use the phrase AWE. I wouldn't be surprised if AWE showed up in Max Payne games also as meaning something else. So they're probably rewriting it, unless they really did have some kind of narrative idea that was going to happen in a slightly connected, multi-dimensional world. That's really the only way it makes any sense, though, is if you say that it is a multi-dimensional world. It doesn't work any other way.
The end begins.
What shall we hunt?
So yeah, it seems like Control stole general concepts from SCP. SCP really isn't too much different from X-Files, other than the X-Files had a group of writers working together, and SCP seems to be random peoples with only a small curative body, if any curative body. I'm not even sure it has any.
This isn't Aloof Neladar.
Let's go attack there. But because there's so much text, and that's pretty much all SCP is, it's the same problem I had with Control. I feel like a lot of people are certainly praising Control, and some of those people, this is mostly just Giant Bomb's Beastcast and podcast is so the Giant Bomb crew is about all I'm listening to at this point, and I barely have any good reason to be listening to them. Let's see. So yeah, I feel like a lot of people that like it like the reading part, but a lot of people also haven't beaten the game that seem to like it, so it's maybe a bias on my part, but it really does seem like the people on the Giant Bomb side that are liking it, and it really is kind of falling in a split decision, whereas usually when you see scenarios like this, it's more guaranteed that everybody sings its praises or stays extremely quiet, as the whole groupthink tends to happen in Giant Bomb and other places. Yeah.
Something with taunt is in the way.
Darn it, I could have used a fantastic treasure.
Scry more.
So it'll be interesting to see what happens, if anything, for the people that like the game who actually finished it. What's weird is there's a very specific point in the game where you meet a character who has to stare at a refrigerator, and it happens extremely late in the game, and yet that is the point, at least as I understand it, where you would have to go through that part before you can really start to even begin to see most of the altered world event items, or objects of power. Like, altered items are not altered world event items, just altered items. if you haven't gotten to that point, as many of the people who are singing his praises haven't, you really aren't even seeing the part that I think would be the most interesting and the most celebrated part of the whole thing, which is the elements of these magical items. So I don't even know what where the praises are coming from, in all honesty, because it seems like it's coming from nowhere, because you would only be getting backstory from the collectibles and telling you about the altered items, and maybe that's what I'm missing. I'd be fully willing to believe that I am missing a love of the lore and Control, and it's funny to still be talking about Control considering I'm done with it. I played the whole game. But maybe you fall in love with the idea of altered items and the backstory of altered items by reading the documents. There was definitely something to that I missed. Like, there was one sequence in which there was an airplane, and I go, why is there an airplane in this area? It seems like this is somehow related to the events of what happens in the past in the game. A very specific event that's supposed to be the major factoring event of the whole game. But there was really no reason for me just environmentally to know that this plane had any real use or anything, and the plane's wings had been dismantled, I think a lot just to fit it into the room that it was in, gameplay design wise, more than anything. And from the one thing I picked up from people praising is that there's actually a document where one of the employees is whining and complaining about having to take apart every single nut and bolt of that plane to figure out what one item in the plane was haunted, which seems kind of ridiculous in general. Why not just take the whole plane? You already did. So something on this plane is haunted. We've collected the whole plane. Why do you need to really break it down any further than that? Just contain the whole thing. It seems like the oldest house in Control is this magical, ever-shifting house that could be bigger. They say they construct entire departments at points, so something they do allows the oldest house to get big enough that they can build giant facilities in thresholds, or which are leaks from other dimensions, as I believe. Like, the fact that there's so much jargon and so much backstory in this, none of it's really explained well. Not environmentally, at least. It's all in that text. I bet people that want to read it
Job's done.
probably are going to have a way better experience. I don't listen to Jim Stern's podcast too much anymore, but apparently he also said that he gave up on reading it, and I'm like, okay, well, that's pretty much where I was at too. And I think most video game people are going to just give up on trying to read any of that. I could draw cards. I don't know if that would be useful.
Job's done.
I don't know if summoning totems of your choice would be useful either, but okay. We could put we could use that to make a taunt minion whenever we need it. I do think Control fails to do proper environmental storytelling in favor of just doing storytelling in the text. And I would like to say before I move on is that there is one environmental storytelling element that just kind of falls under the radar and gets ignored and really doesn't make sense when you start to think about it in Control. And I don't think this is nitpicky at all. The oldest house is this magical shifting environment that is designed in part, well, the house maybe is not designed in anything, but seems to be in part very capable of making areas that you can use Black Prism Rock to contain altered objects and just weird effects. And part of that is that you'll get into several transition points in the oldest house called the fire break, which is literally like when building a house, a fire break. It is this infinite void where there's one giant wall and then there's a retractable platform from one giant wall of what looks like to be the Black Prism rock. And on the other side of that giant wall is just a door and another retractable platform and another giant wall of Black Prism rock. So there's just this big gap designed to be a barrier, designed to stop things that shouldn't be allowed from going across. And the doors on either side of the fire break are 3 heavy cement, like, raising doors. So it's like high security, super safety, designed to stop things from crossing from one place to the other. So then the question becomes, how in the world did the main enemy to Hiss manage to access all of these areas? Like, seriously, all of these areas don't make sense at that point. It really doesn't. The Hiss should, by the fact that the fire breaks exist, already be at a moderately controlled level. The only argument I could think of as to why the Hiss has managed to cross all of these fire breaks and cross all of this security is that there were people in the control area that had authorization to cross the fire break that got infected by the Hiss and then crossed over. There could have easily been environmental storytelling that showed that. It would have made a lot of sense, frankly. And if there was ever a point where we saw any of the enemies go anywhere and do anything with any kind of logic, that would have probably been helpful for several reasons. The only other argument I could think of is that actually it was a complete case of the main character that you're playing as was spreading the Hiss with her, whether she understood that to be the case or not. That the main character you're playing as walked into a room and you were spreading the Hiss and infecting all the people and causing people to spawn out of nowhere. You also never get a good point where you see a lot of the Hiss characters. That a lot of them are like military style in this like orange, kind of orangish yellow firefight suit. You don't see any non-Hiss in an outfit like that, or at least I didn't. Who knows how much of the game I missed. I know I missed a decent amount.
Thank you. This one's learned
So,
his manners.
Yeah, there's
Then he can help us against our new enemies.
there's several things storyline-wise that weren't well explained in my opinion, and I can only go so far as to say, well, it probably was in the text. It doesn't really matter if it was in the text or not. Like, Skyrim doesn't become a great game because of all the text in books and such. Skyrim is a good game that has that added value of being able to read books if you want to. It never really forces you. Where Control 100% feels like you've got to read the games, read the text, and gives you a ridiculous amount of text. That was another thing I heard a mainstream reviewer say. It's just like, even they're admitting the text is way too much, so I'm not off on that. The only thing I am slightly off on my criticism is I came out directly and said the game was too hard, and I always say, well, yeah, I have arthritis in my hands a little bit, and I like to play games on easy, so no duh, it was a little harder for me than I would have liked since it didn't have any difficulty settings. But I frankly was only dying as much as everybody else that I've seen play the game. I've watched a couple gameplay videos now. It's like they're not they're not good. Like nobody is going through Control and not dying relatively often. Some people have claimed that they could use the shield a lot more than I could, which, okay, yeah. I totally get that I was having trouble remembering what button did what and hitting that button at the right time. But I don't think the fight mechanics and gameplay mechanics in Control are good at all. As I was watching one of my earliest videos fighting one of the first bosses in the game, I immediately, in the first fight, tried to play the game the way Remedy in trailers had shown you that you could play the game, and the way I naturally would want to play the game, which is a running and gunning using the one ability I had at that point, which was launch, to throw things against the boss. And so I was running and gunning and trying to stay out of the way of getting hit without crouching behind a barrier or anything, and take him on. And about 12 times I die trying to play the game the way I want to, and then I only succeed when I start crouching behind one specific place and just shoot him. And so the launching really wasn't even doing any damage at that point. So I had trouble with the gameplay mechanics as they were balanced and as they played at the first boss fight. And then I had an incredible amount of trouble with the boss fight mechanics as they were played in the last boss fight. That's what I'm trying to say. Yeah, I'm losing my train of thought. Yeah, I'm feeling a little weird today. Just maybe a little bit under the weather, but Also, I took a sleeping pill and went to try to go to bed a little bit earlier. That's why we're streaming at what is the more reasonable time to live stream. Although I don't know if it matters what time I live stream. I probably should be consistent. YouTube says consistency is key, and I think Twitch probably says the same, and logic would dictate that they're probably right about that, but frankly, it may not matter at all. And trusting YouTube about anything these days is probably the wrong move. Yeah, so control disappointing.
Supposed to do that, but it did.
I was watching a review, or kind of I don't know if it was a review per se, but a show specifically talking about how the
Beetleberries, my favorite.
Just play that. It was talking about Galaga, I believe. Not Galaga. Space Invaders. Yes, I was talking about Space Invaders and what implementations and groundbreaking things came from Space Invaders, because Space Invaders is one of the very first arcade games of mention, and one of the comparisons that they made there that I wouldn't have really thought of is Space Invaders effectively was the great-grandfather of the shoot-'em-up series in general, and that's just a connection that really hadn't happened in my head. But now that I think about it, it's totally accurate. Like, Space Invaders is a game where you're in a ship shooting upward on a screen at enemies that are coming towards you. The fact that we can try this.
Behold the army of Zandala.
Yeah, that was not helpful at all to do that. Yeah. It's hard to certainly remember that when you're looking at like a Toho Project bullet hell shooter that's flying on the side screen, flying sideways and shooting bullets like crazy. Or a comparison that really wouldn't lock into my head would be Star Fox 64. Star Fox 64, I guess, is a 3D shoot 'em up game, but it's so different. I wouldn't have ever considered that.
Job's done.
Science overwhelming.
Well, let's start covering the news, because I'm moving kind of slow here. Steam came out with a couple of updates, and we'll probably cover it in a couple different places. But let's see. Draw 3 cards. See if we can find something that's a 1-mana spell. Nope.
Predictable.
I'm gonna win this battle just because it's I have so much health. And this really is a battle that becomes super easy because you have twice as much health, but was rather difficult the last time I played it when I didn't have that. Anyways, TechRaptor has their article on this. Steam search gets even better. Micro trailers are available. Steam search is getting improvements tested that will make it much better than before, and Steam micro trailers have arrived to give players more insight on the games they want to buy. These are just two of the experimental features being worked on Steam Labs. Let's see. So the new one, Steam Experiment 004, which they're starting ambitiously, planning on having in the hundreds but below the thousands as far as numbering.
Power takes many forms.
Let's see. Keep playing cards for no reason. Search is an effort to improve the Experiment 004 search is an improvement effort to the search. When you activated a new Steam search, will give you several more options to find in games you want to play. You'll be able to narrow games by a much more specific price now with the use of a slider bar. Of course, you can also denote whether or not you would like to factor in discounts for your search. Search, in that case, doesn't feel like a real search, and it feels like what that would be is a discoverability feature, which is, of course, they're always working on discoverability features. I don't think it's realistic to believe many people are going to be able to find a specific game that they're thinking of based on its price instead of its name, which really right now on Steam, if you're typing in the name of a game, if the game is generically named, you'll have trouble. If the game is not generically named, you'll have basically no difficulty. If you try to type in Moon, for instance, in the search, you're going to have trouble. If you try to search Portal, you're going to get Portal 1 or Portal 2. The only issue that then runs around that is there is some popularity balancing going on there. So if you're looking for a game that has a Portal in it but isn't Portal 1 or Portal 2, you're going to have trouble finding that. Or if you're looking for something called Portal that isn't Valve's game Portal 1 or Portal 2, and there's some name confusion there, you're going to have trouble with that. But I don't think searching by price helps that. The article continues. It's also being tested to allow you to filter games by tag, which might be useful, but maybe not.
Aloof Neladar.
Probably win here. Tags that are related to one another are grouped together, so it will give you an idea of the sort of games you can find on the platform. So I guess I could try that, and it's on a per browser basis right now, so we could enable that and experiment with it. Meanwhile, Steam micro trailers, which I thought that already existed, so we could activate both of these, I guess, and see how that goes. All right, so. Well, I clicked on the link. And it took me to a page. I don't know if that enabled it permanently. And then I'll click on another link. Surprised I'm still playing over here.
Job's done.
See, now, last time we looked at micro trailers, which is Experiment 001, it was pretty much this. So you can now peruse micro trailers for every game in the Steam store categorized into nearly 400 tags. Try it out. That part is new, this top part here. But the grouping of classic micro trailers and trying to search under different groups and seeing how it would look otherwise looks exactly the same. So yeah, this still is a thing. It would still take a lot of browsing, and here you have low effort sex games also certainly being allowed and thrown in here, and low effort games in general just being thrown in here. I assume the micro trailers is really just AI running against really is this taking forever. Here, let's go ahead and do 2 damage and move on.
I have an idea. Practice against the League of Evil.
Oh, yes! Who are they again?
And then they're also talking about Experiment 003, which is, we've already covered, which is automatic show, which is just kind of a randomization of all of the micro trailers being put together and done in slightly different groupings here. So, in fact, this might be the first automatic show all over again, because this doesn't even look like it's particularly a new one that's been generated. When they said these were going to be updated relatively frequently, like on a 12-hour basis, so this might be a newer one. The thing that falls down here, I think, is automatic show in particular would be a lot more interesting cards cast half, but you can only play 2 per turn, which would maybe affect me somewhat. Or minions just having +1/+1 in general. I think +1/+1 would be more useful.
The League of Explorers has returned, but we have attracted some attention.
Yeah, the thing about the automatic show is it would work rather well if it were used to make automated YouTube ads. If instead of watching generic awful YouTube ads that I often see repeated every time, if just every day I was saying an automatic show that's saying, hey, we've got this new game on Steam, check this out. But at that point, they've only at this point they've only got one that goes down to 3 minutes. So a 3-minute ad, which as a collection of these micro trailers, wouldn't work too well. And if it were individual ads for individual games just automatically getting put on YouTube, that would be not something that I think Steam should try to do. So, like, I could understand Steam promoting an assortment of games and saying, hey, you just get free advertisement if we decide to promote an assortment of your games, but through our automatic show on a different platform. But we're not going to promote your specific game, and if you want your game promoted as a better way, you're gonna have to pay for that ad space yourself. But thinking about like the first 15 seconds, the first 30 seconds until that skip ad button shows up, I
Job's done.
you need somebody voicing it. You need somebody like a Morgan Webb or an Adam Sessler voicing the automatic show, doing automatic show, doing some ad copy, reading the descriptions of games. If you could automate that, that would be amazing. If that voice would sound interesting and not fake, that would be incredibly amazing. But I'm not sure that they could really do that. And you would have to kind of curate it too. But there is something there, I think, that would work, whereas right now automatic show fails because there's kind of nobody voicing it as far as I can tell, although I've never listened to the audio, so maybe there is somebody voicing it, or some AI voicing it. So I should do some more research. I said that a lot last stream, but yeah, I should figure out if that is maybe getting voiced, and that would change my opinion a little bit on it. But I also wouldn't be surprised. It doesn't really work right now because it's being done as an advertisement on Steam, which by the time I'm launching Steam and going to the store page, I'm not there to be advertised to, not in this fashion, not by random games. It's very questionable how many people come to Steam and just say, oh, I just want to buy a random game. They're either coming to Steam because they already got in mind what they're going to purchase, or they're there to play a game in general that they already own. So the integration of that to their own storefront doesn't really work. And you see that with Amazon Prime too, when the Prime TV feature that they do on Prime Day, it's a thing, but it's hidden very deeply. It's not on the front page, I don't believe, and I don't think very many people would watch it, and I don't think very many people would want it on the front page.
I must insist.
So yeah, there's a certain simplicity that you want on the front page of a storefront, not something just full of ads that are trying to distract you. From what I've heard, the human mind only can choose between 12 visually different selections of anything, so if there's more than 12 main buttons to click on your website, you probably are doing it wrong.
The end begins.
Reporting for duty. Reporting for duty.
Do I want to leave these guys alone, or do I want to try and take a little less damage?
The battle.
I must insist.
Job's done.
kind of curating the games as we're going here. So I know I opened everything, so I know that there's some games here that aren't worth talking about. Like, here's a game that maybe is worth talking about, Drift of the Hill. It's a car game, racing game. There's nothing really wrong with it. Graphics are a little weak. It's early access, it's $1.49, it's English. I guess I put this on the follow list if I'm going to be generous. But in actuality, there's a good chance that this is not going to be that good of a game. And then when we go and look at what the developers made otherwise, which if I had more time I'd always do that. We can see this developer hasn't made it. They've made a bunch of troll games. So we'll unfollow that game as quickly as we followed it. But yeah, I'm trying to not give shout outs to things that are blatantly, obviously low effort games, which I guess is not good reporting, and it's not really the stated goal of covering all the games, is it? Like, I'm trying not to introduce bias, so let's just go through all the games and talk about them. So the next game we have on Steam is called Moonbus. It looks like a Worms World Party clone of some sort in graphics, but I guess in gameplay it's actually more of a fly around lander clone. We've seen several copter, chopper, lander clones recently. This is $5.99 discounted, English only, not making it to the follow list. Let's see. This.
Reporting for duty.
And then this. This. And then
I must
The battle! The battle!
I just have so much health. Right now it doesn't even matter. Game of Sutra has a article here, and this was one I was wondering about, certainly. The role of Double Fine's publishing business is still up in the air after joining Microsoft. From a business sense, I don't know if it structurally makes sense to have a publisher within another publisher. It's a complicated issue. End quote. Tim Schafer talks Double Fine presents origins and goals in an interview with this Structor. So this might be a case that the publishing division splits off, and it turns out that Tim Schafer goes with it. I wouldn't be surprised one bit if that's exactly how it breaks down. That Tim Schafer goes with the publishing division and abandons, well, or effectively abandons Double Fine to Microsoft, which is probably fine because it's not like Tim Schafer was
I shall be
really.
able to if you dare to find me.
So we won a victory. I'm not sure we actually beat this Tavern Brawl. Yeah, I don't think we beat this Tavern Brawl on the Americas account, so now when I come and try and choose who I'm gonna play as.
Crossed my path. Something is afoot.
Yeah, you still can only play as Elsie, so there's really no reason why you would want to do this a second time. And we have no quest whatsoever, so let's check out the solo adventures here.
Join me.
This comes open, I believe, in technically 2 weeks, but I suspect not next Tuesday, but the Tuesday after next is when that's gonna happen. Alright. So the irony of irony would be if I beat level 2, because I don't think I beat level 2 on my main game. So the best thing here to do...
accidentally released arcane energies with random effects. Some good, others interesting.
So we could do this. After a minion is summoned, it gains taunt, divine shield, or rush at random. I don't think we need that though. And I'm not sure what I really want to play here, so let's just work on unlocking the first character.
Even the barber rises against us. Cut her down to size.
And after we do this part, we'll jump over to the Asian account, and then we'll jump over to the Americas account. It is worth mentioning that Tim Schafer also is on the board. As last time I heard, he's on the board of Fig, so he's making money and doing another job. It is also worth mentioning that Randy Pitchford joined the board of Fig, and then they did that Homeworld 3 Fig Kickstarter bundle for $1 backer funding thing. So this isn't a case where in that case Randy Pitchford is doing what rich people do, I guess, and maximizing the amount of
Mayhem? Arson?
maximizing the amount of like money he can make, because as a member of the board of Fig, he would probably profit more, almost certainly, but at the very least. And it's not like this is the first time we've seen something like this either, because Randy Pitchford also heavily pushed and promoted the Epic Store, and surprise, surprise, Borderlands 3 is an Epic Store exclusive. So, but I don't think there's anything else you can really accuse it of other than that, is that, yeah, no duh, he's doing something to make himself more money, which may be for better or worse for the game itself, or the video game industry, or the community itself. But it may be for better too, because some of the Fig backer rewards that are happening for Homeworld 3 are apparently going to be voted on by the main contributors and funders of the game, as far as what kind of rewards are given out to everybody. So you get a level of interaction there that you don't always get. Of course, it could always be a scenario where 50 terrible options are put in front of the Fig backers as far as rewards, and then they say you get your pick of 5 of these. If all the options at front are not good, then it really doesn't matter. There we go. First fight's done, easy enough. I don't think Gamasutra has anything else in this Destructoid reprinting interview to say about the fact that Double Fine's publishing business is still up in the air. You would think that this would have been negotiated before the company was acquired, but I also wouldn't be surprised if they just don't care. Microsoft doesn't care. They're like, yeah, sure, why don't you be a publisher if you want. You keep doing the things you want the way you want to do it. If it makes money, we make money. And it would be questionable, like, it would be like a matter of who would spend the resources to say, hey, I want to publish this game with Double Fine because Double Fine will answer my phone calls, whereas Microsoft won't.
Rockanishu versus Wendy.
As a video game player,
Give up your treasures.
having more publishing
Interested in trying
companies is
something new?
probably a better move because that means they will fund more and diverse and slightly more diverse types of games. If there was only one publisher in the entire video game industry, then if that publisher, say, didn't like visual novels, for an example, then no visual novels would ever get funded or published. Same is true for movies, and we've seen this specifically in movies prove to be a major problem, is that there's really not as many movie publishers and development studios and funders out there. So we get a lot of safe, boring movies instead of interesting, varied movies.
Okay. I'll take this.
There was something else I wanted to talk about that was tangentially
She's going
connected.
to do great things.
Let's see if I can remember what it was. Seems like I have an ability that
On second thought, let's swap back.
that's gonna put these fruit carts taking up space as always. I don't recall getting this ability.
Please don't drink anything I wouldn't.
Well, that didn't work as well as I had hoped. Yeah, well, I can't remember the other part of that I was going to mention, so I'll probably mention it later. But yeah, there was something there, some slightly tangential thing that barely had any connection to it.
Job's done.
I did do some research after saying I needed to do some more research, and TechRaptor, I have this article here to remind me of this. Puzzle Quest is coming to Nintendo Switch with a new expansion. There are considerably large amounts of Puzzle Quest games. Many of them are themed. It seems like there's probably 2 or 3 that would be canonically in a storyline that came out for like the Nintendo DS, but the way it boils down for PC is, I think on Steam there's really only one Puzzle Quest game. I think that's pretty much all you're gonna get, and so the Puzzle Quest: The Legend Returns on Steam, I mean on Switch, is probably the best version if you were going to play a Puzzle Quest game to play, and because it's going to have slightly new elements, whereas I am not 100% sure that the Puzzle Quest content that's exclusive to the Switch being added will ever make it to PC. If it doesn't make it to PC, I don't know if it will make it as DLC or as a whole new game. Let's see. Gamatsu tweeted out a actual support tweet I believe. Let's see. PSA, we have fixed recent issues where users have encountered when submitting posts to the Gamma Sutra blog account. Sorry for the inconvenience. What's interesting about this is specifically compared to like the Epic Store support page. It's like Gamma Sutra probably runs into way fewer problems, but they're putting out news all the time. So one public service announcement every 4 to 12 months is way better than the Epic Store's tweets. So I guess maybe the Epic Store should just get rid of their support Twitter and say, hey, we're not gonna use this anymore. We should just instead make announcements from our main Twitter account. But I don't even think that's the case. I think the Epic Store's main Twitter account is what tweets all of their downtime, all of their bugs that they run into. Speaking of bugs, I'm still running into the issue of Samba not working on my server, but everything else is working fairly well. Although I did find out that DNS mask on DDWRT, the way I had it configured, was not routing things correctly, and I don't know exactly why. So I had to say, okay, the dynamic DNS name of my server equates to the local IP address, the LAN IP address. That way, anybody connected to the Wi-Fi that is saying, hey, I want to go to this website, which actually is on the same LAN instead of on the internet, knows where to go. It was a weird situation where if I was not connected to the Wi-Fi, I could connect and access the website fine. If I was connected to the Wi-Fi, I couldn't. When usually it's the exact opposite case. Yeah, I also ran into nearly a little bit of internet downtime in the middle of the night, so there was a slight chance the stream wasn't going to happen. And I guess at any point there's a slight chance the stream won't happen. So that's something to be aware of, I guess. TechRaptor has an article here. Pokemon Go trespassing lawsuit settles. Lawyers cleaned up. Let's see. Let's see if we can boil this down to it. The Register reports that the Niantic settled a lawsuit surrounding Pokemon Go trespassing to the tune of $4 million. Rather than fight this in court, they decided it's easier to spend the money and make the problem go away. Unfortunately for the plaintiffs, they didn't get the payday they were hoping for. The judge dismissed the initial requested sum of $2,500 per plaintiff, knocking it down the awarded complaint to just $1,000 for the 12 named plaintiffs. So do the math there. $12,000 $12,000 go to the plaintiffs. The lawyers made $4 million in legal fees. At least $4 million is the estimated number. Yeah. Which, okay, like, these were probably pro bono cases, so the lawyers were probably working hard to win, to not waste their time, but it does show a case. It's a great instance where maybe lawyers shouldn't exist at all. Theoretically, nobody has ever successfully done this, but law should be stupid easy and stupid obvious. to the point where lawyers should not need to ever exist and should quite literally not exist. If there weren't lawyers on the criminal side that could railroad people into getting falsely convicted, that would be a great thing. If there weren't lawyers that were running up legal fees, that would be a great thing. On the other hand, lawyers often act as good arbitrators in disputes. It would be kind of crazy in divorces if you had a wife and husband each defending themselves in some kind of divorce settlement agreements, because they would just boil down into irrelevant arguments. That being said, that is kind of what the whole Judge Judy and all of that is get the lawyers out of the picture, just have everybody have their say, and then the judge determines it however they want. But the fact that you kind of need jury trials always, like for there to be any kind of anything close to fairness in a case, because you need jury trials and the jury is not made up of lawyers, it's another example that laws shouldn't be that complicated. This is a long rant to say, yeah, Niantic gave $4 million plus to a bunch of lawyers because they were stupid. And I think anybody making an augmented reality game these days pretty much knows that you want to be an opt-in process, not an opt-out process. Although I think still, I don't think it's really opt-in. I don't think that there's some service you can do where you would have to opt in so that an augmented reality game worked. They just got better about saying, okay, it's going to be parks and churches and things like that where people won't really complain. One could still very much make the argument that there definitely are still cases of nuisances caused by Pokemon Go players. Do I want to play this right now? I don't think so. Moving on, TechRaptor has an article, Command Armies in the recently released Fantasy Journal 2. This is an advertisement for it's $39.99 on Steam. We could do a quick jump here and see what Fantasy Journal 2 looks like. It looks like it's a standard strategy game. Doesn't look terrible, but this is kind of the information I could just get from looking at the game when it came out, not through some advertisement specifically built around
Let's be bad guys.
TechRaptor. Man, I am totally out of it. I'm not as bad as I've been in the past. Like, there have been some times where I was totally half asleep, but I'm certainly not moving fast enough, and inevitably I probably am going to fall asleep early today. Twitch support put out this tweet. We have noticed some confusion around the current sub-timber promotion. To clarify, the 50% discount only applies to new Tier 1 subs or if you continue active gift subs or Prime subs. The promo does not apply to new gift subs. Let's see. If you've ever changed your username, you can now generate a new 6-character prefix based on that name to match. Head to affiliate settings, emotes to get started.
Mother speaks to me.
So they added some
No,
name
that's someone else.
name change feature. Doesn't sound right. Let's do this.
Let's be bad guys.
Do not fear power. Fear those who wield it.
Okay.
Frogs, no!
The cold don't bother me.
Let's see. Techraptor has an article here. The Trials of Mana remake gets an April release date. Do we have an actual day here? Trials of Mana. If you buy it before May 21st, you'll get the Rabbit Adornment, a special item that allows players to get more XP in fights until they're level 10. Well, geez. April 24th, 2020 for $49.99 on the PC, PS4, and Switch. So, is Trials of Mana not fun in its grinding? Is that the case, that you have to pre-order it to get more experience? There's a lot of cleavage getting shown on several characters here.
I must decide.
Trials of Mana looks like a brand new game. I think because it is now it's a full 3D remake of the original game. Okay. That trailer made it look nice. Perhaps nicer than it really is. Okay. Deal 1 damage. So if we do this, and then this, and then this, I'll summon a new one of those, and I can end my turn. Alright, we've got a game on Steam called No Go. Let's see. It looks like a dark screenshot syndrome horror game with asset flips. It's $13.99 English, full audio, third-party EULA. And yeah, there's nothing here of interest. Out of cards. So. Next we have a game on Steam called Blooming Nightshade. Looks like a visual novel, but it's a free-to-play tag, so I suspect it's either really short on the amount of dialogue and interaction, or something else wrong with it. It looks fine. It doesn't look like there's too many characters or too many backgrounds and settings. It's free. It's got 16 achievements. Let's see. It's a dating game. Where are they making their money? Originally created for the Euro Game Jam, so it's a Game Jam visual novel thing. So yeah, that deserves to be on the fall list and as a free game. We'll see if there's people that review it. So if it's a Game Jam game, almost certainly it has considerably fewer lines of dialogue And that's the part that would really catch people's ire, for lack of a better term, is whether or not there's a reasonable enough interaction in the storyline. Because nobody wants to really play a visual novel that's only like 20 minutes long. Although I'd be fine with that if it had branching story paths in that 20 minutes. That game, Telling Lies, and another full motion video, Erica, both are potentially going to be shorter experiences, and I question if there's going to be some value in that.
Let me help.
I'm going to do this, and do this, and do this. I need to do 2 more damage before I can play this. So, yeah. I'm not as sold on Telling Lies as the sequel to Her Story. Because some of the interface changes that it feels like they've added may actually make the game even less of a video game, or even more difficult to manage and deal with than Her Story was. Alright. 1 damage left. Next we have a game on Steam, Mortadella and Philemon, Operation Moscow. This is that Spain-based point-and-click series that has, like, one of the sequel games is in English, but then the other games aren't. So I need like a fan translation before I could really play them all. It's $10.19 discounted. This has English interface, so there's no reason for this one not to be on the fall list. But
It is not wise
you're
to disturb
in this
the
weird
winds.
position that
They
there's
have a way of pushing
several of
back.
these point-and-click adventure games, and apparently I do own one, or one is on the wish list. Like, I'm perfectly happy to what am I trying to say here? Man, I'm so scatterbrained right now. I'm perfectly happy to play the
Spirit of the flame, turn them to ash!
play a Spanish-based game. I just want to make sure I can actually understand it, because it would be unrealistic for my level of understanding Spanish, which isn't very high, to try and play a point-and-click adventure with a lot of text and dialogue.
An orb of the purest void. It is like a fun-size old god.
So I'll take that. Take that. Here is the new search results. So
Step into the inn for a rest.
you could go items on your wish list, items you own, items on your cart, items not discounted, items marked not interested, mixed rated items, negative rated items, items that cost more than, and then you can set in an amount. But then you could narrow price this way by $5 increments down to free, up to $65, well, $60 or more. Special item offers, hide ignored items, hide items in your library. And then narrow by tag, exclude tags. So more search options, but one thing to take here is when you are searching a somewhat smaller developer using the old developer system and before they made developer pages, there's more on the side here taking up space than games that actually came up. But that's a rare instance in which that is going to happen. If I'm just looking in general, you can see that more often than not you're going to have a infinitely growing list. Oh, that's interesting that it just keeps going instead of clicking next. That's going to be a problem if you're trying to find something specific from some search, but I wouldn't be surprised if this is the beginning of them making search results specific to each person. So my search results on Steam might be different than other people's search results. Wouldn't be surprised one bit. Alright.
I always love meeting a new
Let's see
customer.
what changes we want to make here. This guy is nice. Can we steal him? Add all minions. Alright, I will take all minions to my
Order up.
deck. Always start with this in my hand. Look at 4 spells, reduce the cost of 1 by 3. Alright, so always start with
Now
this,
shake on.
and then nothing else. I'm good on that.
I'll put it on your tab.
Rocksteady tweeted out that they've got job listings. So they have a job in the animation department, the art department, the audio department, and several in the core and AI department, and the IT department, the marketing department, and the QA team. So that's a decent number of people that they're hiring. And so one assumes that they're hiring up for development of some new game. Rocksteady, I believe, is owned by Warner Brothers according to this this copyright. So unless the next game they're working on is Urban Chaos Riot Response, I would assume they're making something in the Arkham style, maybe not in the Arkham series, very possibly a Batman game, but I wouldn't be surprised if not. After the last Batman game was released so poorly and badly, it wouldn't be a terrible idea for them to say, hey, let's make a Wonder Woman game. Wonder Woman was a good success in the movies. Or let's make a Joker game that focuses specifically on the Joker. Joker, in his many iterations, has proven to be a good seller. Or, you know, double down on it and try and release a Superman game. I don't think anybody's legitimately tried to make a Superman game since Superman 64.
Someday I'll be just like you.
Let's see. Gamma Sutra has an article here.
Someday I'll be
Postmortem
just like you.
Epic Games Unreal Tournament. This
You never
is
know what you will find.
kind of more of a
Estes Scroll.
deep dive on a game that was a long time ago, so I don't really see a reason why you would want to be spending your time reading a postmortem. Here it's 4 pages long. Unreal Tournament, I think, has value in existing and affected the video game world. It didn't affect me any because I never played it, but it certainly affected rocket jumping and first person shooting in general. And we wouldn't be playing the first person shooters the way we play first person shooters these days if it weren't for Unreal Tournament, at least pause a little bit.
Keep your voice down.
Let's see. Next we have a game on Steam called The Dreadful Whispers. This looks a lot like a Binding of Isaac style art style, but it seems to be more like a Super Meat Boy style game. Yeah, it's more platforming than it is.
Let's be bad guys.
Than it is like a roguelike. Well, this one's already positive, so I think I want to put this on the follow list. $8.99 discounted. English full audio. 16 achievements. Yeah, I feel like this might be a good game, but it might not be. It might just be kind of a troll game that people are liking as a joke. So we'll see how that works. At a certain point, I will fully admit there is a saturation level on Binding of Isaac style dark humor, and so you can't have the creator of the Binding of Isaac series constantly putting out new versions of Binding of Isaac, which a new version of Binding of Isaac is in development, and even one or two copycats. Yes, I can play this.
So loud.
See, this character is just silencing all the characters. I guess that doesn't matter. Moving on, Gamatsu. Tokyo Chronos developer My Dearest to announce a new project at Tokyo Game Show 2019. So yeah, we'll see that. I guess an announcement for an announcement isn't really that important.
Knowledge is power, and I know a lot. I learn.
Let's see.
Can you not steal in peace?
Next, we have a game on Steam called S&L, which is a low-effort Snakes and Ladders game. Which Snakes and Ladders in general would be a fine game to try to make a clone of and put on Steam, although you might get copyright claimed. Although it's such a simplistic game, it probably doesn't deserve to have a copyright around it, as long as you're not stealing like their base art. The phrase Snakes and Ladders or Shoots and Ladders
I guess I will read something.
probably shouldn't be copyrightable. Snakes and Ladders, Shoots and Ladders is another example of a game that nobody really likes after a certain point, though, because it has a terrible gameplay loop in it, which you can get very far through luck or through skill, mostly luck because it's just dice rolls, but then you get thrown back to the beginning through luck and skill, so it's almost 100% luck. I don't know if there's anything that's not luck actually in it. So yeah. Moving on, we have Cute Blocks on Steam, which looks like it is a Brick Breaker clone with an anime girl in the one of these moe anime girls in the corner at all times for no reason. It's 59 cents discounted English. Yeah, not making it to the follow list. Far too many Brick Breaker games already on Steam.
Maximum chaos.
So. Just hit this one directly. Next we have a game on Steam called Square Weapons Dungeon, which it's so zoomed out for the style of that character. It's an odd camera angle, but it's also just not even a camera angle in this case. This is a odd scaling issue because the floor that the characters are standing on are effectively as thick and tall as the character you're playing as. Hiding most of the screen because the camera zoomed in so much. So it's just kind of like a lack of understanding of how the gameplay would be better suited if you could actually see more on the screen. $4.99 English and Japanese. It looks pretty for what you can see somewhat, but it's got a fatal flaw in it. I can tell just by the video.
No music in the library.
Job's done.
Next we have a game on Steam called Flying Sword, which seems like it might be a Chinese game where you literally are just flying around, maybe with your feet on a sword. It's hard to tell visually. It doesn't seem like there's really any enemies here. It does kind of have an interesting art, like brush painting style that's being done to the mountains. But yeah, that's kind of it. It's too simplistic a game. It's 89 cents English, 89 cents discounted, and a whole bunch of language supports. Oddly, Chinese is not even in the top tier of it.
Fight more quietly.
You use only the mouse to play, apparently. Yeah, Flying Sword not making it to the follow list. Alright. Just play this anyway. Seriously, I've been moving so slow. Like, so slow. I can totally feel it. Like, we've been going for an hour and 37 minutes and I've not even been able to play 2 single-player experiences. But I guess I have played a decent number of battles.
Treasures. I'm gonna love
Yeah, and this is really the only way to fix the insomnia issues. Like, I've been staying awake till 8, 9, 10 in the morning and then sleeping all day till 8, 9, 10 in the evening. And 12 hours of sleep sounds like a lot, but it's not a lot when you're having terrible quality of sleep, which is often the case. Like,
I used to unlock doors of considerable wealth for some bad folks too.
Okay. You start with this.
Just like you.
Job's done.
And we can play several spells next turn. Next game we have Gear Puzzle, The Inheritance of Grandpa. And then some Asian characters. Looks like it is a point-and-click adventure game. It's early access for $4.49. It's English and Chinese. So if we look at this developer, have they made anything else? They made The Mysterious Ship, which also doesn't have any reviews, and came out February 12th, 2018. This is something I need to check before I start putting things on the follow list. I think oh yeah, I remember looking at this during the follow list cleanup, and I removed it from the follow list because it didn't have any reviews. So, do you put the sequel of the same company, same kind of game on the follow list and then remove it? I think you do, yeah. And then next time I do a follow list, I'll probably remove everything from 2019 that came out in 2019 and say, alright, these were given their chance and they didn't succeed.
I'll unlock those crystals for you for just 7 easy payments and 99 gold. Now think of it like this. I'm just keeping them safe.
So every time I cast a spell, he's gonna punish me. Interesting.
Those crystals are now off limits.
Gamatsu has an article here for the PS4. Hatsune Miku VR for PlayStation VR launches November 12th in Japan. So Hatsune Miku still catching people's attention. Alright.
Let's be bad guys.
Let's see, where are we? We have one we can cast. Gamatsu has an article. Sony announces its Tokyo Game Show 2019 lineup. Persona 5 Royale, Genshin Impact, Project Resistant, and more playable. What'll be interesting to see about Sony's interaction with the Tokyo Game Show is now that Sony Interactive Entertainment is run out of California, will they have a bigger presence or the same presence or a lesser presence at the Tokyo Game Show? Sony itself, the main company of Sony, is still being run out of it's still being run out of Japan, the main Sony company. But if the game lineups are small, which they probably will be, and very little effort is put into it, which is a possibility of how things will go, then we'll definitely see that Sony, the main Sony, has abandoned even their Japanese fans, which I think they probably are in the process of doing that. Let's see if there's anything here. The PlayStation 4 titles that will be shown off are 13 Sentinels, Aegis Rim, AI Insomnium Files, Atelier, Riser, Ever Darkness and the Secret Hideout, Biped, never heard of that, Borderlands 3, which will be weird, Call of Duty Modern Warfare, which is weird, certainly. I don't think those are gonna work well or be well received in the Tokyo Game Show. Code Vein will be well received. Concrete Genie, maybe not. Probably not. Contra Road Course Control from Marvelous, or being published by Marvelous. I don't believe Control was published by Marvelous in the West. Let's see. Cyberpunk 2077, which is apparently being published by Spike Chunsoft. The Dark Pictures Anthology, Man of Medan, Death Stranding, Destiny 2 Shadowkeep, that'll be weird, certainly.
Sometimes Sometimes you just have to think about a problem and then smack it with something.
Shall we make a storm?
Job's done.
Destiny 2 Shadowkeep, Digimon Survive, Divinity Original Sin, Dragon Ball Dreams, eFootball, Pro Evolution Soccer 2020, FIFA 20, Final Fantasy VII Remake, Final Fantasy Crystal Chronicle Remastered Edition, Fortnite, Genshin Impact, Ghost Recon, Ghost of Tsushima, Grand Blue Fantasy, Gungrave Gore, Azume 11, Is It Wrong to Pick Up Girls in the Dungeon, Infinite Combat, Little Nightmares 2, Medieval, Mega Man 0, Monkey King, Heroes Back, that's like that Chinese game. And that's, I believe, the only one so far. We're up to M, and this is a long list. Medieval is also one that is actually from Sony Interactive Entertainment. But before Medieval, none of these games. Dreams is also from Sony Interactive. Very small games, very unimpactful games are getting released directly by Sony. Everything else here are not particularly even exclusives. Oh, so if I don't cast a spell that overloads, I don't get the sparks, unfortunately.
Thunderstruck!
Let's see. Where do we stop? Medieval, Mega Man 0, Monkey King Heroes Back, Monster Hunter World Iceborne, Need for Speed, New Guilty Gear, Neo 2, One Piece, One Punch Man, Persona 5 Royale, Project Resistance, Project Sakura Wars, Ready, Set Heroes, Romance of the Three Kingdoms, Romance Saga, Sakuna of Rice and Ruin, SD Gundam G, Shenmue 3, Star Ocean, Star Wars Fallen Order, Sword Art Online, Tales of Arise, Trials of Mana, Watch Dogs, and Yakuza Like a Dragon. So, with such a large lineup for the Tokyo Game Show, it seems like what Sony... the thing that was accused of Sony was that they didn't have anything to show for E3, and that's why they didn't show up at E3 this year. It seems like they have plenty to show now at the Tokyo Game Show. Now, in all fairness, most of those games could have been on the Microsoft stage at E3, and very possibly a lot of them were on the Microsoft stage at E3. But it seems like instead of Sony just abandoning video games in total, it seems like instead they are shifting their focus to having it be a case where they own the Tokyo Game Show and Microsoft owns E3. I don't think that's gonna work well for anybody, any place other than Tokyo, though.
Job's done.
On top of all the regular games that they'll be showing off, and unless a lot of these are actually PlayStation 5 cross-platform releases, it's gonna still be kind of a boring presentation. They need to present the PlayStation 5 and say all these games we've been showing you, by the way, are going to be on the PlayStation 5 instead of the PlayStation 4. But they'll also be showing off several PlayStation VR titles, which PlayStation, as far as consoles concerned, owns VR, with maybe the small exception of the Nintendo Labo.
Hurry up! Portals online!
So they have Concrete Genie, Demo Reborn, Marvel Iron Man VR, Hatsune Miku VR, Sairento, Sairento, Sairento VR, Stumper, and Throw Anything. The stage events are specifically going to be shown are going to be Call of Duty Modern Warfare, Death Stranding, Dragon Ball Z Kakarot, Final Fantasy VII Remake, Gran Turismo Sport, Neo 2 Project Resistance, and Yakuza Like a Dragon, which, with the exception of Call of Duty Modern Warfare, all those games are very much likely to be games that people going to the Tokyo Game Show would be excited about. Do we have a demon? No. So that's a rather surprising lineup for Sony at the Tokyo Game Show. I didn't think they were going to put any effort, considering they didn't put in any effort for E3. Although it's probably a little silly for them to have not put any effort into E3. Let's see if we can do this. One damage away from winning. Next we have a game on Steam called Born of Fire. It looks like it's some kind of card game, maybe played with 4 players around the table. It looks kind of interesting, as all card games are kind of interesting to me. Unfortunately, it's already mixed. So at best, I put it on the fall list. It's early access to, free to play, single player, multiplayer, apparently no in-app purchases, and it's Chinese. So do I put this on the fall list, or do I say this is probably a cheap Chinese Hearthstone clone? I really couldn't call it much of a Hearthstone clone, though. It seems like it's more of a card-based battler. Deck building roguelike with innovative systems and player versus player gameplay. You can climb the tower alone or battle other players at any time. Let's look at this developer and see if they've developed anything else. No. I'll be generous. I'll put it on fall. We'll see if somehow this turns out to be the card game that wins. That's what I say for almost every card game on Steam, though, is that somehow will this be the one that actually is good and people actually want to play. Start of the game, shuffle 10 Skulls of Wonders into your deck. Your spell costs health instead of mana. After you play a minion, shuffle 2 copies into the deck. They cost 1 mana. Well, 10 Scrolls of Wonder or that. I think that's better. Meanwhile, I should just do more next.
The streets are too claustrophobic.
Next we have a game on Steam called Spider Solitaire F. It looks like it's just solitaire. I don't know why you'd want to buy something like that. The card skins look good. Looks like there's 2 or 3 different types of cards you can play at card decks. $4.99. English, Chinese, Japanese. 10 achievements. It's too expensive, frankly, though, for a card game.
I can always
Considering
enjoy a
you could
quiet
get a
night.
cell phone version of this for free, perhaps being forced to look at ads. Let's see, kid-friendly minion +2/+2 this run.
Maximum chaos.
Do I want to add all enemies? Sure. Meanwhile, do I want to give a starting health of 5 or +1/+1?
I've heard this story before. It's a good one.
There we go.
You have fun with all that mayhem and chaos you're causing.
So we've got like 2 more bosses that we're hoping to beat. Gamatsu has an article here for the PS4 and Switch. Under Night in Birth EX late CL-R is confirmed for PS4-Switch. The Under Night series drastically needs to change their naming scheme. It's ridiculous. But yeah, short confirmation of what platforms it's going to be on. That's really all you can take from that. Gamatsu has an article here. Gunvolt Chronicles Luminous Avenger 9 adds the Xbox One version. It's also due out September 26th.
Job's done.
Okay. I kind of wish I could see what the game is. It's like a platform Mega Man clone, I believe. Let's see, is there a tag here? No. It'd be nice if they had a video there. But they don't. Let's see. Next we have a game on Steam called Cordy's Prison, which seems to me like it's probably a cheap Chinese typing game. Although this is an interesting idea, so it's staged battles like a play, and or at least it looks like that, and you have to type where it is yellow, but then inherently what you're typing is not text that you would type in a normal instance, and when the keyboard turns like that, that doesn't make a lot of sense.
Let's be bad guys.
Yeah, that.
Someday I'll be just like you.
I don't think there's a logical thought here on this game. And screenshots don't seem to show anything more than what the demo said. $2.69. It's probably really short. English only. This concept's interesting, but you would have to type real words. And I think you'd do better doing something like the Text Assist or Typing of the Dead than this does. Although, with more effort, with more gameplay here, with actual lines of dialogue being typed, or just random words getting thrown up, it would make some sense. But it needs to be real words. It needs not to just be being able to hit the enter button and the apostrophe button, for instance, back and forth, so you move left and right. I believe that's the apostrophe button. My keyboard, it's actually the backslash button, so the keyboard layout's different too. In a lot of ways, Mavis Beacon teaching typing is still kind of one of the best typing games ever made, so there's never been a real need to make a new version or improvement on it.
Get your funnel cakes here.
Next we have a Gamatsu article. Knives Out is coming to the Switch in October in Japan. It's a Battle Royale game. I've heard the phrase Knives Out. I'm not sure if I actually heard about this game. It's another battle royale, and it's probably nothing. It looks to me very much like something I would just classify as a asset flip battle royale clone that's not really worth people's time. Oh, it's been out for smartphones, so kids playing it on their smartphones basically has made it somewhat popular. We already talked about this, so we don't need to talk about that again. We have NBA 2K20 on Steam, mostly negative. I think this is probably because of the slot machines and microtransactions and gambling, if I was to guess. Let's see. Microtransaction Extravaganza 2020, a casino game with some basketball in it. The future of sports games is scary. Yep. So yeah, I would never have played NBA 2K anyways. There might be like the first NBA 2K game, maybe it might be worth it playing when it came out, but probably not even then. Next we have a game on Steam called Discrepant. It looks like it's a space adventure game. It might be an asset flip game. It's kind of hard to tell. We're suffering a little dark screenshot syndrome here. Flying around in the spaceship, walking around the spaceship. I guess maybe I've got a little bit more understanding when I see an asset flip horror hospital or school than I do when I see a asset flip horror horror space game. So $9.99, English full audio. I'll put this on the follow list, but I'm fairly certain it's a asset flip garbage game.
Maximum chaos.
Right. So I need to do this, and then hope this hits him. And it didn't. Darn it. Next we have a game on Steam called Tactic, T-A-C-T-I-K-K. It looks like it's a Hitman Go clone, only looks worse, and that I really didn't like the original Hitman Go, so I don't want to play this. 64 cents discounted, that's an odd price. English only. Tactic's not making it to the follow list.
Hurry up! Portal online! Check it. Do it again!
I'm spending so much time on this that frankly I'm gonna fall asleep before I even get to the other accounts. So if I find out I have like 3 daily quests that I somehow need to do for the Americas account or the Asian account, I'm gonna be in a bad position. kill that. Get rid of that. I don't know how close we are towards the ends of all the news, but we're probably closer than I think. Next we have a game on Steam called MacDo's 95, which seems to be a game highlighting Windows 95 games, or just a random assortment of garbage games, which is a better way to describe it. $4.04, 19% discount, that's some odd prices. English only. That's not making my controllers. Play all of these cards.
I serve the fire.
Just like you.
Attack. Gamatsu has an article here for the PS4 and Switch. Ninja Jaja Maru collection debut trailer. Seems to be a collection of like Famicom games I've never heard of. I don't think these ever came to the West.
Wanna blow something up?
Yeah, it seems like it's a collection of mini games. Nothing there interesting to me. I don't think it interests too many people without nostalgia even in Japan.
I serve the fire.
Was that supposed to impress me?
Attack here. Attack there. Gamatsu has for the PS4 13 Sentinels, Aegis Rim, 4th trailer. This might be a good trailer to remind us of what 13 Sentinels Aegis Rim is. It looks like it's a Persona-esque style of game, maybe with some mecha it seems. So if this is what the actual gameplay is, that looks kind of boring. So you can have an interesting group of characters and an interesting kind of art style that's slightly different, but if most of the gameplay mechanic is inside of some kind of AI battle fights, that would be pretty dull.
Hurry up! Portals online!
This. Do that. Here. Let's see. Gamatsu has an article, Blaze Blue Cross Tag Battle DLC version 2.0 content pack. Remaining characters will be announced on September 22nd. 5 characters left to be announced. So, yeah, more characters coming to Blaze Blue. Is basically all I can say right now. More fighting characters are coming to fighting games, which means the fighting games are getting more support. Seems like fighting games are becoming a little bit less annualized and a little bit longer supported, although some of them achieve that through a lot of DLC sales.
Mayhem? A person?
By the power of Ragnaros, I have the power!
Keep it quick, kid. I ain't got all day.
Keep on playing. Next we have a game on Steam that's just a bunch of Asian characters. It looks like it's a RPG strategy game of some sort. Actually, it looks like it's just kind of an asset flip RPG game, which you don't see too many of those. Because I'm seeing a lot of stuff, but nothing that seems like it would consistently make any sense. It's early access, it's free to play, English is not supported, it's Chinese only. I suspect this is some kind of Chinese RPG maker game that probably isn't that good, but I can't really even tell, so I won't be that cruel to say that it's like a cheap Chinese game. Let's see. Next we have a Street Cat's Tale Support Edition, which seems to be an Asian, almost like web game, Java game, that I imagine you can get for free somewhere else, and then the support edition is the expensive one for $2.99. English, Japanese, and Korean. So let's see.
I wonder if Bei Chao will ever let me back
into
the library.
There's no non-support edition here. It's supposed to live 13 days. Well, this won some award allegedly, so, and it is in English. It says allegedly, so let's see if anybody buys this game and actually plays it. This is a kind of game that very possibly will just be out of relevancy, like nobody will buy it, nobody will play it. If that's the case, then of course there's not really a lot of reason for me to buy it or play it. Do we have one more boss? I kind of need to take a break, quite frankly. Yeah. No, 2 more bosses it seems. Wow, I've been moving so slow. I did not realize how long it was gonna take to do a single run of this. You can see why I've never really had time or really tried to do any of the solo adventures on the other accounts. It's just
in Dalaran?
It's just a mess. Anyways, moving on, TechCraft has an article. Nintendo is showing off a weird new motion controller. More details soon. So apparently that's it. Do we have anything else? Let's just see what this video looks like. It's a ring with some stretchiness and something in the back that's probably a battery pack, and then you can strap something to your leg, and you're using the Wii nunchucks. So it feels like it's a half a steering wheel and half of an exercise thing, clearly. Yeah, so it clearly is just an exercise device. It's really not gonna catch on like so many other Nintendo experiments. It's the new Wii Fit balance board, but doing something different. And take note, they never bring back the balance board. They didn't make a new version of that. so that they know that stuff doesn't really sell beyond the minimal number that they need it to sell to be profitable. Let's see. Next, we have a game on Steam called Leprechaun Shadow. It's tagged with nudity, I should have checked. It's a low-effort RPG game with a little bit of 3D pre-bought models in it, which is weird instead of just making an RPG Maker game. $4.99, English full audio, it claims. Totally not something worth anybody's time, though. The thing that's really slowing this down is everything I've done today has not involved using the rope because they've been single player experiences. So every single turn I can sit there for as long as I need to and the game won't care. TechRaptor has an article here. Xenoblade Chronicles Definitive Edition has been announced for the Switch. So, okay, do we have an actual release date or anything here? It was an RPG release for the Wii back in 2012. Xenoblade Chronicles. Don't see anything else that I could really say. Do this. And then do this. This was a slightly interesting headline. Gamma Sutra has this. The unionized Nexon staff rally for job security amid company-wide reorganization. Around 600 unionized Nexon staff in South Korea demonstrate this week following project cancellations and general unrest that has been brewing at the company over the last several months. I believe we've heard some bits of this story before. I don't know how the union laws work in South Korea. It seems like they might work a little bit better than some parts of the United States, but clearly, I just generally speaking, any Asian country is probably pretty heavy into abusing employees, whether they're unionized or not. 600 staff being unionized, depending on how big the company is, might be a lot, might be an incredibly small number in total, and they may just have very little bargaining power and very little negotiation force. Nexon is the company Nexon is the huge company that's trying to sell itself, and they can't find anybody else in Korea to buy it. I can say in South Korea in particular, there was enough corruption that happened that allowed enough people to make giant mega corporations in Korea that really shouldn't have happened. So Nexon should probably voluntarily break itself up, but then there's plenty of other companies in South Korea, Samsung in particular, that should probably be forced to break up into different companies. Unlike most companies in the West that focus on doing only one thing, for the most part, Samsung is running convenience stores, making LCD screens, making SSD, making flash memories, there's a lot of different things Samsung does, Samsung makes washers, dryers, refrigerators, I'm pretty sure. So if each of those different departments could have been split, could be and should be split. Let's see. To get back to the story specifically, though, they're chanting, "Stop making excuses for a reorganization." Again, this is in Korean, so it probably sounds better. "Ensure job security." Well, that's what union members said and were quoted as. And that quote is, "We can't endure disorganization without countermeasures." The union leadership says that 100 employees are currently suspended following the cancellation of their project. So apparently this union doesn't have any guaranteed pay or guaranteed hours. And they have no guarantee that they'll relocate to other positions in the company, and that the staff left in limbo for 3 months are required to leave the company. Staff left in limbo for 3 months are required to leave the company entirely. The quote here is, "If the project ends or fails, there are interviews. If they don't give jobs. If workers don't pass the interview, we're here to make a reasonable claim about job security." In other words, if a project ends and the team is disbanded due to poor games, it is not certain whether the team's manpower will be relocated, which is why the workers in the game industry have suffered from constant job insecurity. Yeah, that seems reasonable. That seems like a very reasonable, in my opinion, thing that a union should be focused on is job security. Just saying, hey, we are your employees, you need to pay us 40 hours a week so we can have families and feed ourselves and own a house and own transportation and such, just so we can meet our basic needs. And if a game fails, you should either individually fire us for poor performance, or you should assign us to something else if it's not our fault that the job failed. You shouldn't leave us in limbo. And I've certainly seen companies that love to leave people in limbo try to force them into quitting instead of firing them, giving them ridiculous hours or small amounts of hours so that they can't possibly stay at the job.
This organization does not tolerate failure! But we are a smidge short-handed, so feel free to try again.
So, it's been 2 hours and 15 minutes.
Blew you away.
And that unlocked a thing, certainly. We've unlocked a better deck, and we've unlocked 2 better decks, I guess. Or 2 hero powers. But that was an incredibly long amount of time. And I guess that's all I really needed to do, though, to get the packs.
Magicals be the Bank of Dalaran. You be distracting all the guards. We be taking all the loot.
So I don't even really need to do all the quests. I just need to play enough to unlock the packs, and that will give me a little bit of a boost. I don't think it's worth the time, though. That was an incredibly long amount of time to play and run this first episode. I don't think I got much accomplished. Let's break up an episode here and then move on to the next episode, and I think we'll probably only have 2 episodes today at this rate. As always, I ask you to like, share, subscribe, comment, and watch every second of my videos. If you want to friend or follow me on any social media sites, there's a whole bunch of links down below in the description box. And if you want to support me even further, There's a link to Patreon, or you can friend me on Steam and gift me a game off my wishlist. Thank you for watching. Have a good evening.